So Jill and I went together with her dad because he wanted to see what I was getting his daughter into. Randall was preaching that day about the potter and the wheel. We also went together to Randall's workshop on rejection and abandonment, where he said, "I'm mad at hell and not going to take it anymore." Jill really liked him, but she wasn't ready to leave her own church. That took about another 2 years. She wanted to get married after about 2 weeks, and I told her, "No, we're not ready. We need to become one in spirit and one in body." I held her hand through a couple of knee surgeries and helped take care of her dad out on the farm in Freeland where she grew up. When she was in the hospital recovering from her first surgery, a hospital chaplain came in and asked if she could pray for Jill. Jill refused because she believed that everyone not in her segment of the Lutheran religion was evil and going to hell. We ran into this lady again, as she was one of the women's group Jill would come to be a part of. Jill, her son, and I were on our way to her church, and I told her about this dream I had the night before that reminded me of the story of Lazarus and the rich man. Her pastor's sermon that day was about the same Bible verses. This kind of thing happens to me quite often, and Jill saw hundreds of these kinds of revelations and confirmations. We were once saying a prayer over our food, and the words, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," came out of my mouth. Then we watched a movie that said that line about 7 or 8 times. She made the connection, but never entirely changed direction. She tried to lie to me, and I'd catch her every time. She'd try low-level mind games, and I'd slam dunk her with Bible concepts. She started to learn she was better off telling me the truth, because sooner or later, I'd find out. Still, she was the type who, if she wanted something, she'd do it and then say, "Now what are you going to do?" All kinds of self-destructive, vicious circles. Eventually, Jill's dad had to go into a care center, and her brother insisted she move out. I had been leasing my dad's house, so she moved in with her son, who was 13 when Jill and I started our relationship. By then, her brother and Jill were in full war mode. She sold some of her dad's tools without his permission, and he was upset. He said he'd let me handle it, but wanted nothing to do with her ever again, said he'd never forgive her. I called him out on that, and he wanted to beat me up. Both he and Jill carried a family rage demon. That was the focus of God's training for me at the time, recognizing and understanding personal demons. I took her to different churches, but we mostly went to her Lutheran church because I wanted to show her that her Lutheran church wasn't the only body containing the Holy Spirit. We went to Mount Hope a couple of times and she liked it there. One day I saw that Billy Burke was coming for a healing service, so I took her there. She said that while he preached the story of the woman with the issue of blood, the one who wanted to touch the hem of his garment, the story came into her head so strongly that as soon as he left the pulpit, she got up out of her seat and walked straight through the door and up the aisle. I followed her. She marched right up to Billy Burke and said, "I'm the woman who needs to touch the hem of his garment." Billy said, "Somebody get behind this woman." He touched her and she went down on the ground shaking. I was peeking around the corner. A couple of other guys came up and asked what happened. I said, "Billy Burke happened." When she told her Lutheran church about it, about how her back was healed, they told her she had to choose between me and them. She chose me. She knew I would not reject or abandon her because I've been rejected and abandoned my whole life, and I know how that feels. I took her to Cornerstone Church in Bridgeport, the old Genesee Gardens Assembly, and she was happy there because the pastor came and spoke with her. We went to Freeland Assembly once, but Jill was ignored. At this point, I could start to talk to her about religion, just not deep spiritual things. She would still shut down. She might smile and nod her head, but she wasn't listening.